A historic summit, cameras flashing, handshakes exchanged. But what if everything you saw was just a show behind the headlines? Celebrating a peace deal between two giants lies a silence that should terrify you. No document, no details. Yet markets rallied and politicians declared victory. What was really signed? Who truly benefits? And what power games were hidden behind the smiles? This isn't just diplomacy, it's a smokescreen for something much darker. As the world applauds, some are cashing in, while others are left in the dark. You're about to uncover the blueprint of a global illusion, where words are weapons, silence is strategy, and the truth is not for everyone. Let's tear through the noise and expose the real power play buried beneath this so-called deal. Fire, the most dangerous legacy Prometheus left behind. Humans call fire a tool of evolution. I call it a moral litmus test. From the moment Prometheus stole fire from the sun god, it carried punishment. It cooks meat, lights the dark, and burns cities to ash. It has no reason yet. It always finds the weakest point in any system, from structure to soul. A weapon mankind thought we had mastered never actually belonged to us. Fire is the final exam. We praise fire as the foundation of civilization, but its true face only appears during crisis. Every disaster in history from Tokyo to London reveals that fire doesn't start problems, it exposes them. It's not emotional, but it strips away the worst human flaws: apathy, delay, blame shifting. Each great blaze is a moral mirror. The real question isn't how strong is fire. It's why is the system so weak? Modern cities, billion-dollar buildings, safety policies all fall apart due to wind, a spark, or hesitation. And the result is blood. Not of the decision-makers, but of civilians. Fire shows no mercy. History, however, spares many who should be on trial. Tokyo 1923, where rescue never came, and lies killed tens of thousands. A 7 magnitude earthquake lasted 4 minutes, but it was only the overture. At lunchtime, 6 fires broke out from traditional stoves, paper houses, wooden roofs, narrow alleys. Everything turned to kindling. Yet the true scandal, the authorities had no emergency plan. No escape routes, no water reserves, no early warning. Only fire showed up on time. The fires spread not from intensity, but from wind. A typhoon offshore pushed violent gusts inland. Firestorms formed tornadoes made of flame. At Ryogoku, 40,000 people gathered to shelter and were instantly incinerated as fire devoured the open ground. No water, no exits. No one warned them fire could fly. Hope turned to ash in minutes. Before the smoke cleared, a scapegoat appeared: Koreans. False rumors accused them of looting and arson. Thousands were murdered. Instead of saving people, the government created an imaginary enemy to hide its failure. In the end, 142,800 dead, nearly 2 million displaced, 60 billion yen in damage. But the real loss was trust. Tokyo died not by fire, but by silence and fabrication. London, 1666, where arrogance and an east wind burned an empire. A bakery fire at midnight, a small flame. The mayor of London went back to sleep. "It's nothing serious," he said. And it wasn't until the east wind rose. London was a giant barrel of fuel. Wooden homes, narrow lanes, gunpowder stores, wine cellars. All it needed was a spark. When it came, no one had time to call it an accident. It was the cost of pride and delay. Wind spread the fire. Warehouses exploded. Powder stores turned the skyline into fireworks. No fire trucks, no professionals. Just soldiers using explosives to demolish homes, hoping to stop the blaze. But demolition only fed the flames. When St. Paul's Cathedral burned, they realized power symbols burn like dry twigs. Even the king fought the fire, uselessly. For 3 days, London burned alive. Fire spares no status. It only exploits weakness. 13,200 buildings, churches, 100,000 homeless, but only 6 deaths, numb. That's spin. In reality, bodies were unrecognizable, uncountable. The Great Fire wasn't a natural tragedy. It was a lesson in wait-and-see leadership. London didn't die from flame. It died from its own belief that nothing bad could happen here. Fire doesn't wait for confidence. It punishes it. Grenfell Tower, when stay put, became a legal death sentence. A faulty refrigerator. A small fire on the 4th floor. Within minutes, all 24 stories were ablaze. Not because of malfunction, but because of cheap, flammable cladding filled with polyethylene. They called it cost-efficient. The real cost, 72 lives, mostly poor immigrants. People who couldn't afford to live elsewhere. People who trusted a system that saw them as line items. Fire crews arrived by midnight, but flames had already reached the top. Management issued no evacuation. Just stay put. Wait for help, they said. But the only staircase was a chimney. Residents above the 22nd floor had no chance. A 6-month-old girl died of smoke inhalation. People waved flashlights and towels from windows. The nation watched as public policy executed its own people. The official cause: poor materials, ignored warnings, unchecked risks, all known in advance. But no one acted not to avoid creating panic. The real failure wasn't technical, it was moral. Grenfell wasn't an accident. It was the endpoint of decisions made by invisible hands. Like every major blaze, survivors weren't rescued, they were spared. And those responsible, still in office, still silent. Hawaii, 2023. No sirens, no mercy, and paradise burned. A power line snapped in high winds from Hurricane Dora. Drought, overgrown weeds, and climate change created perfect kindling. One spark, and Maui turned into hell. People assume fires start from carelessness. Not here. It started from a warning system that never worked. Hawaii boasts the world's largest outdoor siren system. But not one alarm sounded. No sirens. No texts, just smoke and panic. People fled to the ocean, swimming through smoke to survive. The fire moved at 1.6 km/minute. Heat reached 1,000 degrees, melting aluminum, warping cars. 880 hectares scorched. To 200 structures lost, including historic Lahaina. Yet the deeper pain came from the question: why was there no alarm? The official response: we're still investigating. The real answer: no one wanted to be blamed. Result: 15 dead. 100 missing. The worst disaster in Hawaii's last 100 years. Yet, no evacuation order. No public instructions. No coup, no leadership. The lesson: technology won't save you if those in charge are too afraid to act. When silence is safer than speaking up, the alarm that should have saved lives becomes part of the disaster itself. Chile, 1863. A mass ceremony turned mass sacrifice. On December 8, 1863, Santiago's Church of the Company of Jesus filled with worshippers for a holy celebration. A gust of wind caught the altar veil, igniting it from a candle flame. The interior was draped in cloth and oil lamps. Flames spread instantly. Women wore massive hoop skirts. Children clung to their parents. Side doors were locked. The only exit a single main door, already overwhelmed. And then the clergy escaped. They left through private exits, taking valuables, locking doors behind them. They survived. Inside, 2,500 people were burned alive. Bodies were so charred they couldn't be identified. A mass grave was dug. No apologies, no explanations, just silence and a fallen church. If this was a place of refuge, then prayer died with its followers. Why did this happen in a sacred place, people asked? Because sacred spaces don't replace safety protocols. Faith doesn't stop fire. And the worst betrayal is when those with power walk out first, while the poor are left to burn. This was more than a fire. It was a moral collapse. If churches are sanctuaries, this one turned into a furnace of abandonment. San Francisco, 1906, when truth was rewritten to save property prices. At 5:12 a.m. April 10, 1906, a 7.8 earthquake struck. Gas lines exploded. Fires erupted in over 50 places. The fire brigade lacked water. They blew up buildings to stop the fire but made it worse. Fires raged for 3 days. Over half the city was gone. But the worst part came after officials lied about the death toll to protect real estate. They reported 3 dead. The real number, nearly 3,000. They feared a property market collapse if people knew the truth. So they buried the bodies and the data. No one was held responsible. The city chose market stability over mourning. Once again, civilian blood was traded for economic calm. And San Francisco's ashes masked more than smoke. They buried accountability. 28,000 buildings destroyed. Over 200,000 homeless. Losses worth $8.59 billion in today's money. But the deepest damage was ethical. A global city, the West Coast's pride, chose optics over honesty. And that too is a pattern. Fire doesn't kill people, fear of losing power does. In silence and smoke, truth was another casualty. Australia, 2009. Wildfire. By human hands. Black Saturday. Temperatures hit 48 degrees Celsius. Humidity at 2%. Winds up to 125 km/h. A single fallen power line started it, but arsonists added fuel. In just 7 days, over 400 fires erupted across Victoria. First the forests, then the homes, then entire towns erased. A modern nation couldn't save its own people, not from nature, but from its own recklessness. 173 people died, including 113 in their homes. 414 were injured. Over 1.1 million acres of land destroyed. 3,500 structures burned. Dead wildlife scattered. Cars melted to frames. Communities vanished. Images of blackened kangaroos and skeletal homes became national trauma. No country is immune to fire, not if its people and systems fail to act. The real question isn't, why did it spread so fast? It's why haven't we learned anything again? People died not from flame, but from carelessness, arson, and delayed response. No one dies in fire if exits exist, if warnings go out. But when public trust is weaker than the heat itself, a nation burns, while leadership looks for a press release. It's not the fire that kills, it's the system that ignores it. From Tokyo to London to Hawaii, the common thread isn't fuel or weather, it's ignored warnings. Every disaster had prior alerts, papers, reports, even public complaints. But they were shelved. No one acted. No one prepared. When the fire came, shock followed. But shock doesn't save lives. It arrives too late, when everything's already in ashes. Deaths in fires aren't random. They're designed outcomes, built from cheap materials, bad policies, slow reactions, failed alarms, and officials who didn't care. People don't die from heat. They die from trust. Trust in stay put. Orders in rescue teams that never arrive in budgets that cut corners. Trust, when misplaced, burns faster than gasoline. The terrifying truth isn't a fire might come, it's a fire will come. And unless the system changes, nothing will. We don't need more tech. We need more honesty, accountability, and courage. Fire is not the enemy. Delay, silence, and spin are. Each minute without truth brings us closer to another disaster dressed up as bad luck. If fire returns today, Who will dare sound the alarm? No nation is fireproof. No city is safe if its systems value clean reports over real action. The question isn't, will there be another fire? It's next time will anyone sound the alarm? Or will we see the usual flames? Screams, slow evacuations, and a spokesperson calmly saying, "We're investigating the failure. We must change before fire returns. Change regulations, train responders, educate citizens. But above all, build a culture of alertness. One where any person can ask, where's the fire escape? Why no warning? Who's responsible?" When you ask these questions, you're not a nuisance. You're a survivor in the making. Fire shows no mercy, but we still have a choice. Prepare now or count corpses later. Each fire is a test of society's morality. Don't wait for the next one unready. Be the one who sounds the alarm even if they call you paranoid. Because if no one dares to act, no angels will save us when everything burns. This was never just a peace deal. It was a masterstroke of manipulation. While the world celebrated shadows on paper, the true game unfolded behind locked doors. Power shifted, wealth reallocated, and the masses were fed illusions wrapped in press conferences. If you're still waiting for transparency, you've already lost. Because in the arena of global influence, silence screams louder than promises. Those who understood the coded signals moved early. The rest, just spectators in a war of symbols. Remember this moment not for what was said, but for what was strategically left unsaid. The next time a historic deal is signed, ask yourself who wins when no one reads the fine print. The answer is always the same: the architects of the illusion.